Alright, so let's go ahead and deal with the governor. So we have two 7mm bolts, and then you have two Phillips head bolts. Now, something else I literally just noticed as I was yanking this thing off. I have not noticed it up until now. And like I said, I put the governor aside after I tore down the transmission and really haven't even thought about it until 5 minutes ago. But you'll notice there's like a piece of metal in there. Now, would roll this plate in that neutral and third condition, I don't know. I don't think it would have affected it, but it certainly could have. So, interesting to say the least. Don't know how that metal got in there. And the valves are kind of stuck. Alright, so this will separate the governor from the counterweight. Okay, notice the little filter screen that needs to go back in there. I'm gonna leave that test plate on and we'll check it again after, you know, all the stuff is out of the housing and back in it. So I guess I'm gonna have to deal with this little metal piece here. I'm hoping it's not from the housing itself. That would kind of suck. We would have to go and get another one. It's a little bit too small for that. Looks like aluminum, but not entirely sure. What may have happened, assuming it's from this housing, is whoever worked on this thing last, they didn't have bench buddies, and so the valve was tough going back in, and they just forced it and they broke the housing. I hope that's not the case. I really do. Okay, this thing should have moved and it was seized, so that's why we didn't hear anything. There's still like something in there. And so this valve is stuck in here. It's not wanting to come out. Yeah, I mean, you could hear it. So the body is likely warped. I'm going to carefully try to tap it out. If it's not going to come out with just a little bit of persuasion, then I'm just going to go get a good used governor for it. If it will come out and no pieces of metal come out with it, then I'll polish the hell out of the bore and get it moving again. So there's metal up in there. I'm looking at the lands in this area in here. So let me clean this off and we'll see if there's any pieces, you know, missing out of here, any chunks. There's your little filter screen. Yeah, I can actually see it even without cleaning it. I don't know to what extent the camera's focusing. But you can see the mouth of that bore that's inboard, but closest to the opening here in the front. You can see it's all gouged up. So came in from inside the housing. Not good. Should have torn this thing down earlier, but you know, better catch it now than before it leaves my shop. So, you know, a little bit of last minute corrective work we have to do. Alright, I did polish up the bore real quick, so I haven't done anything with the valve. As you can see, there's wear on the valve, so it may require some straightening out with like 1,000, 800,000, and maybe 1,500 grit sandpaper, but I want to see if anything happens here. Let me actually coat both of these valves. Yeah, it does not want to go in. It should be going in nice and easy. I got all the chunks missing out, and it looked like it was only the mouth of the inner bore there. So just the mouth. The rest of the surface actually looks okay. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in a drill. I'm going to wet sand it, you know, WD, and start with 800 grit sand, and then we'll move to 1,000 grit, and then 1,500 grit once it's moving around a little bit, and go from there. I'm going to do all this off camera, and then once I'm back with it, I'm either going to tell you we're able to salvage it, or I'm going to tell you we need a new governor. Okay, so I think I may have salvaged it. We have the assembly back together. I didn't put the filter in, but this is what I was looking for. Movement like so. Alright, it should move freely in the bore, you know, back and forth. There shouldn't be issues. And there shouldn't be chunks of aluminum in there either. So your valves should come out nice and easy. And they should go back in easy as well. Alright, this feels a little rough, you know, as far as the sleeve and its relationship to the inner diameter of the bore, but that should not be an issue because the sleeve really doesn't move. It's really this inner valve that moves, and this valve is moving just fine. And my hands are filthy. This is filthy, has to be completely cleaned off again, but we should be fine with this the way it is. So now we're ready to put the governor back together for the final time. I already pre-assembled it, that's why you see WD here. But basically, I was able to get all of the valves in here moving freely within the bores in their respective locations in the governor body. So first we have our inboard valve. Just may have to jostle it a little bit just to get it to go. Okay, and then you have your outer sleeve and your inner valve that goes in the sleeve. Now, one thing to note here, okay, looks like there's indentations that are somewhat serrated in nature, and they look suspiciously like the indentations that are on this little valve here, on the back side of it. So I am wondering if whoever rebuilt this last, why the valve was in backwards. Could be the cause of our issue, don't know. Okay, for your filter screen, just make sure that the steel side goes inboard and it goes in this location here. Alright, and for your counterweight, it's going to go like this. So it's going to go like this. Okay, it can only go on one way. That's the nice thing about these, and I had my orientation mixed up. Alright, now we'll go ahead and put our cover back on. Alright, let's see what the torque spec is for this. So these screws are Phillips head bolts get 50 to 60 inch-pounds, and then the cover gets 20 to 30 inch-pounds. So 7 millimeter. And we'll go right in the middle, 25. Alright, then I gotta get a Phillips head bit, or socket rather. And we'll go right in the middle for that one too, 55 inch-pounds. Okay, so I think I've salvaged this valve body. At least it appears to be good to go as far as valve movement and, you know, generally how they felt when I got done polishing the board and cleaning everything up. So this valve moves as it should. And then okay, that's what you should see. It was installed upside down for whatever reason, so I don't know why that is, but that's what happened. So, as I mentioned throughout this whole video series, this transmission has been going through before relatively recently, and you know, whenever you're dealing with somebody else's work, sometimes, you know, you find everything as it should be, but sometimes you don't. And in this case, we found with little slivers of aluminum stuck in the valves, causing causing them to hang up. So I'm going to install this back onto the output shaft, and then we'll just check passages for air and see if we can get this thing to move and act the way it should. And if we do, if everything is good, then we'll basically move on and finish up the transmission. The installation is very straightforward. So you're going to have your detent ball here, just like that. Alright, and then you're going to have the groove for it in the counterweight. Your bolts face inboard. And so just make sure that you're lined up. And it'll go right on. And that was actually more difficult than it usually is. Okay, just make sure your snap ring groove is exposed, and then install your snap ring, and then you're done with the governor. Alright, so now I'm going to put air in the governor passages. So we have governor to valve body and line to governor. Okay, that moves. Now I can feel the stroking. Before, it wasn't moving at all. I'm not 100% sure that it's going to work, but I'm a lot more confident in it now than I was previously. Use a dirty rag for that. Okay, let's move on.